Yes. Yes, Canada. I have Canadian roots. I'm from the US, but I have Canadian roots. And I once had a boss. He was Canadian. And I said to him, I'm Canadian. And he was like, oh, really? He's like, where are you from? I said, oh, I've got relatives from Newfoundland. And he was like, when he just looked at me and he said, don't ever tell anybody that. So that was just a little Canada humor to warm us up here. I got a tough look in the crowd right there. How's everybody doing? Great. I thought that Gary and Casey were both fantastic, and one of the things that Gary said that really stood out to me was that you kind of have to be your own person, and that the best thing you can hope for in life is to figure out what your game is and play it as hard as you can. And so I look at someone like Gary who gets up here and he just gives you the straight talk, just gives it to you, and I'm like, yes. I'm like, I should do that. And then I'm like, wait, no, that's not me. I have an MBA. So therefore, I need slides to help me out. And so my slides are not up, but they could be at any minute. And once they are, yes. And once they are, we're going to dive into this talk, which is about the future of inbound marketing. So I work for HubSpot. It is a company that's been around for about 10 years. Some people heard of HubSpot? Nice. I'm pretty new to HubSpot. I've been there about 7 or 8 months. And of course, prior to joining HubSpot, I'd heard of HubSpot a lot, mainly because HubSpot goes to market around the principle of inbound marketing. And I think what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about what inbound marketing is, but more importantly, how inbound marketing is changing from the year 2017 and on. So without further ado, outbound marketing versus inbound marketing. Let's just start there and lay the groundwork for those who don't know. So outbound marketing is very much all about interruption, you might say. So cold calls, people sending you spam emails, things like direct mail, things that interrupt your life. Inbound marketing, on the other hand, is more about attraction. So creating content that people find useful, creating tools that people find useful. You could say that outbound marketing is seller-centric. That is on the benefit of the seller, and inbound marketing is buyer-centric. You could say that outbound marketing is bad, and inbound marketing is bad. You could say that if you wanted to. I'd say okay if you wanted to say that. And over the past 10 years, a lot of marketers have put inbound practices to work for them. And this is a slide that from a survey we took recently on the most important lead gen sources for marketers right now. And these three on the left are basically all inbound. So social media, creating content, SEO, blogging. And so it's really encouraging to see that most marketers are saying, hey, my most important sources are inbound. That gives me, as someone who works at a company like HubSpot that believes so firmly in inbound marketing, a really warm feeling. But, sorry, we are having a little bit of difficulty here. Can you jump back one? No? Okay. Let's do that again. So at the heart, though, inbound marketing is about more than just creating content and attraction. It's actually about a much bigger concept, right? And I think that concept is actually about adding value before extracting value. This is exactly what you heard Gary Vee say when Pedro asked about the internship, was just this idea of the jab, jab, hook, which is this idea of how do you actually create value for people, no matter what? And just trust that if you create that value, that is going to have benefit to you as a company, and you as a marketer, and you as an individual. And so I think rising above all of the tactics and whatnot, this is the essence of what inbound marketing is all about. It's about adding value before you extract value. And so we're 10 years in to HubSpot right now, and so we're about 10 years into inbound marketing. And I think a fair question is, if we've been adding more value than we've extracted, what do people think of us as marketers? So we ran some data to take a look at that. This is a ranking of the most trusted professionals in North America. And as you see, salesperson and marketer are below politicians even. They're below lawyers. Like, that's how we rank up. And so truly, if we're out there with this inbound mindset, and we're doing all these tactics that are inbound, and those are our most important tactics, like, what's going on? It feels like there's a disconnect. And that is what I want to talk about today. This disapproving grandmother, she's wondering what's going on. And I think what's going on is that we all have really good intentions. And our intentions are to... Sorry about the slides, everyone. I'll be honest, the transitions are not working on the slides appropriately. So some of these slides are looking a little bit weird, but we're just going to push through it. What you would see there was a face that had two hearts for eyes. And I think that's what we all set out to do when we set out to be marketers. But I think the reality is that our job as marketers is that we have to drive growth for the companies that we work at. And I think that for the past 10 years, many outbound tactics have really continued to work. So at my last company, it was a company called Trunk Club. I'll talk about it a little bit later. It was a men's retailer. We sold clothes. Guess what our top performing channel was? It was direct mail. It was sending a mailer to someone in the mail. And the truth is like, I was like, that's not like what I should be doing as a marketer. But you know what? It worked really, really well. And so that really put me in a difficult position. And so for many, many marketers who've needed to, hit this bottom line, it's kind of left us in this spot of needing to potentially have some tactics that were not inbound. And if you were a marketer in this room, you'd say, great, why shouldn't I keep doing that? Like, why not keep doing some of those tactics? And what I would say is that I feel like I need to go like Larry Ellison on this and just yell next. Next! Great. The reason that we can't continue on is because I think we're actually at the end of the road for some of those tactics based on what's actually changing right now in the world of digital marketing. And that's what I want to talk about today, is what's actually changing today that's really going to require us to act differently going forward. And I think the result of that is that we are going to create a lot more trust with our consumers. And I think that that's going to be a really good thing for our industry. So, let's start, first of all, talking about consumers and the choice that consumers have. So in 2007, this is what someone would see if they wanted to buy a razor blade. They would see, 4 or 5 different brands on a small shelf like this. In 2017, what do they see? Nope. Got to go back one. Sorry, guys. Nope. That's it. That's what you see in 2017. You see 53,000 results for razor blades, okay? Now, like, of course, I know you're like, yeah, no crap, John, like, surprise, surprise. But this actually is, like, really profound because you know what hasn't changed? The number of people buying razor blades. Like, that's actually stayed pretty flat. And so I think this is one of the core trends, so let's jump. Our supply is going up, but our demand is flat, which means there's a lot more competition, which means that we as marketers have to compete for a spot on the infinite shelf of the internet. And that's really, really, really hard. And if you want to pull that off, you actually have to have trust with consumers. And some of these tactics that have been working historically are no longer going to work. So let's jump ahead. Another big thing about choice is that the buyer journey has really changed. And this is particularly a B2B marketing slide, but I think it has B2C implications as well. It used to be, in 2007, that if you wanted to buy software, you would basically look at some marketing materials, and then you would absolutely and totally get on the phone with a salesperson. And that salesperson would tell you everything you wanted to know. And after you talk to that salesperson, you might do one customer reference call, and then you bought the software, and that's how it worked. In 2017, the funnel looks pretty different. Many people, before they even consider buying something like HubSpot, actually start by asking their peers, hey, what do you use for your marketing software, right? Have you heard of HubSpot? Do you like HubSpot? Is HubSpot good? What's your biggest concern about HubSpot? Is it right for me? Meanwhile, marketers are actually putting touchless channels into play so that people can actually just start buying software without ever having to talk to a salesperson. And so I think that from a choice perspective, this is also a really profound shift that is happening right now. And so if you look at this graph, which is some data we ran just about what the most important buying sources are, like you won't be surprised to see that in 2017, it's word-of-mouth referrals. And I would be shocked if anybody in this room bought anything off of Amazon or any e-commerce website without reading a good selection of the reviews that are out there. Just fundamentally, people are coming into the buying process more informed and looking for opinions from their peers. So it's not enough to just have great inbound tactics. You actually have to have great relationships with your customers there. Okay, change number 2, which is that search is just tougher to game. So there's a lot of things changing with search. The first thing we have to all acknowledge right here and now is that search is going to be everywhere. And I do mean everywhere. It's going to be in your dining room. Who has an Amazon Echo? A couple people? That you can't buy it in Canada? Ah, jeez, I should have researched my audience. I'm sorry about that. I have one. It's amazing. It's incredible. If you've tried Siri and you're like, I don't get it, it's mediocre, the Amazon Echo has incredible voice recognition technology. I literally talk to it several times a day. It's incredible. So search is going to be in your dining room. Search is also going to be in your car. Search is also going to be in your head. These Apple EarPods are literally just going to start putting search right into your head on a more regular basis. And so just fundamentally, if we're not always going to a browser to do search anymore, like this is a lot tougher to game if you're a marketer. And for the past 10 years plus, that's a lot of what marketers did, was say like, hey, like I know how Google works, like I think I can kind of figure it out, and I'll go and like find some hack and get a little advantage. Further, if you think about the way search worked in 2007 on Google, it was very much about you putting in some sort of question and Google suggesting a couple of options for what might be the right answer. In 2017, Google will actually tell you the answer. Okay, so they've like taken this huge step forward that if you're a marketer right now, like you have to be sitting there thinking like, well, I want to be sure that I get into the snippet, for instance. Like that's a really big thing for us at HubSpot. It's like, how do we own as many snippets as possible, those small points that Google puts above the fold? So there's just a lot changing in search. And I thought it'd be interesting to just take a minute and talk about, for marketers in the room, what that actually means for you. One more evolution there. So in 2006, the searcher basically just had to use the right terms, and the marketer more or less had to match terms to different URLs. There was a lot of keyword matching, right? And the marketer in 2006 basically just had to play the game. In 2016, searchers now are speaking naturally. Engines are actually looking for true intent. And if you're a marketer, you're probably scratching your head saying like, well, what do I do there? Like how do I like exist in this world? Like, I don't know how to deliver content that aligns with intent. Like, that's really, really difficult. So we've actually done a lot of research over the past year about like how to exist in this world where search engines are searching for intent. And what we found is that there's a big shift from terms to topics. And if you're a search engine marketer or a digital marketer, I think this is a concept that you have to start spending some time thinking about. There's a lot of different tools that exist to help you figure out what topics are, but there's one tool that's actually like really easy and simple to help. And so that is to just go to Google and to type in the start of some phrase and see what comes up. At HubSpot, we really want to make the term inbound sales popular. We believe that fundamentally there's a shift happening in sales right now, and that bringing the concept of inbound sales, helpful salespeople into the world is something that's really important for the future of sales and marketing. And so if you type inbound sales into Google and you want that to be your topic, Google pretty much tells you what you need to create content about in order to actually go out and own that topic area. So, just a takeaway for you, if you're starting to think about your content strategy for 2017 and what you want to create content around, this is a great way to start thinking about topics. Okay, excellent. On to change number 3, messaging. The fact is, messaging rules. People love it, and people use it all the time. And so, in 2007, we had a Motorola phone. In 2017, we have a phone that has notifs from all sorts of different messaging apps that are up all the time. It was really difficult, actually, to text people in 2007. It took a lot of time. And so what we did is we relied on desktop email systems and things like that. Meanwhile, quietly, messaging apps have actually overtaken the top 4 social networks over the past year. And so we're now seeing a point where more people are on messaging apps than are actually even on social networks. And if you look at Facebook Messenger specifically, we are well over 1 billion people now, just on Facebook Messenger. So if you're a marketer in the room, you're probably thinking to yourself like, that's interesting. I don't really do much on Messenger, and I don't really know how to do much on Messenger. And potentially, I can understand why you're scared. Because you can't buy a list on Messenger. You can't call Mark Zuckerberg and say, hey, I want a list of all the messaging handles of everyone who's in the 25 to 55 age group who's interested in buying clothing. Like, you just can't do it. And so your initial reaction may be this. But I would argue, actually, that this actually represents an important opportunity for marketers. And I think that that opportunity is actually, again, to build trust. So why do people love messaging? People love messaging because it's fairly intimate, because you're interacting with a human, because it is not just a set of transactional messages back and forth. You actually have context when you're actually doing messaging. And so I think that the opportunity that Messenger represents is to build trust and build stronger connections with your consumer. And we started to test around this at HubSpot, and I'll show you some examples of that. So we've been testing a little bit on actually taking some of our offer pages where previously we would have had a form where people filled out to get an email saying, like, what if we let people get it on Messenger? Like, what happens there? And if you jump one more, we actually deliver that content right into their Messenger interface. And it's still fairly early, so I don't have too many results, but I can tell you that the engagement rates on us messaging people are incredibly high as compared to the engagement rates on email. Like, people are interacting with Messenger, they're more used to interacting with it, and we've started to develop the technology where we actually can have conversations around this stuff. And so it's fairly interesting. I think it's an interesting opportunity. And I think that's a great segue into 3 solutions to deal with these challenges that are facing us. So the first solution is to use bots to actually tap into the trends around messaging. So chat bots, of course, are all the rage right now. And I think what we feel at HubSpot, and in particular, our co-founder Dharmesh, who's kind of, for people who haven't heard of Dharmesh, he's a technologist. He spent a lot of his time just focused on the way that technology is moving. He's a brilliant man. I feel very lucky to work with him. But in the past, businesses built websites. And one of the things that we fundamentally believe is that going forward, they're going to start actually building bots instead of just websites. And so in this world of chatbots, if the shortest distance between, we'll jump back one, sorry. Well, we're having a tough time with that. Thanks. Okay. If the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, then the shortest distance between a question and an answer will actually be a bot. So for anyone who's in this room that interacts with their customer service team. It's only a limited set of hours that someone can actually be online. And so, of course, marketers have built FAQ pages, and I think that's a great and interesting resource. But actually imagine if you can have a bot installed on your website where people can ask common questions, and they can get pre-programmed responses. And in the process of actually asking those questions, the consumer that's on your website is actually building trust with you along the way. I think that's a really interesting proposition. Now, I think that bots and machine learning overall kind of there's a lot of tension. I think a lot of people are really nervous about it. I think they're like, what does that mean about my job? Am I going to lose my job? Will a bot now be the VP of marketing at HubSpot? I've thought about that before, of course. And what I would argue is that it shouldn't be humans versus bots. And that instead, it should actually be thought of as humans to the power of bots equals much, much better than normal humans. And so I want to share one of the ways that HubSpot is actually trying to develop bot technology to help our core customer, which is a marketer. And so I want to introduce you to something, if you haven't seen it, called GrowthBot. It's a chatbot for sales and marketing professionals. Dharmesh announced this at our Inbound event in November. I certainly have spent a lot of time playing with it. I want to show you a little bit about what it can do and why I think it changes the game for marketers. So if you go to messenger.com, and I'll be honest, I think there are a couple builds here, guys. We're going to have to work together on this closely. Let's see what happens. So if you go to Messenger, let's hit it. What's going to happen? There we go. So you go to messenger.com. This is just Facebook Messenger, and you actually type in GrowthBot. You can type a message, and you can just start with hello. I think this is how most chatbots kind of work. You say hello. It says, hi, Dharmesh. My name's GrowthBot. For ideas on what I can do, say, give me a hint. And there's a whole bunch of use cases that I think are really interesting. I'll share a couple of them with you today. So the first one, for anybody who is a blogger in this room, how many times have you had a great blog idea and you just forgot to write it down? Yeah, that happens all the time if you're a blogger. So if you have an idea for a blog post, hit it again. You can actually ask GrowthBot to create a new blog post for you with a title. And that's actually going to go, if you've connected it to HubSpot or another marketing platform, and actually create that blog post as a draft. So it's going to be saved there forever. It's a lot easier to imagine messaging something than getting a piece of paper, writing it down, folding it in your pocket, etc. Another core example that I use all the time is about my analytics. And this one I think is particularly exciting. So you could ask, how was traffic compared to last year? And it could tell you that total organic search for visits had a 2% decrease. That's fairly interesting, and you could actually tell it to show me year-over-year growth. And that might hit it again. That might actually bring up a graph for you that actually shows your year-over-year traffic growth. And so I would encourage everybody to go play around with GrowthBot. It's pretty early stages. Dharmesh is doing a lot of work on it. But literally, I think everybody should think about ways that their product could be enhanced right now with having an AI assistant that actually could help people get to some of their core answers more quickly. OK, jump ahead. And just jump again. We're going to, yeah. OK. Solution number 2 is about video. So Casey, obviously, very inspirational talk just about video and the role of video. I think why video is so interesting is that it actually creates an opportunity for deeper communication. And so let's start with 2007. If you were looking at the New York Times website, it would have looked a lot like a newspaper. In 2017, it, of course, has video embedded. People feel a closer connection to it. It's able to communicate more of the concepts more deeply. And the reason that I think video matters right now is not just because it creates a deeper connection and allows people to understand what you're trying to communicate more effectively, but I think an important reason for marketers to care about video is that at this point, Facebook basically is video. I don't know if you've seen these for anyone who's in Toronto. I don't know if Toronto has these up, but in New York and Boston right now, They literally have billboards up all over the city of New York and the city of Boston that literally have step-by-step instructions for how to go live on Facebook. This is how much Facebook cares right now about creating live video. They also have them on buses, which I think is really ironic, because imagining trying to get through 4 detailed instructions on your phone while a bus is driving by, I think is fairly comical. But this is how much Facebook cares about live video. Now, as a marketer, why do you care that Facebook cares about it? You care about it because that means that Facebook is going to prioritize it in their algorithm. And for anyone who's done social media marketing, if there's one thing that's really stunk about the past 5 years, is that everything you post doesn't reach anybody unless you put money behind it. Unless it's in the content format that Facebook is trying to push out on their platform. So we've done a lot of testing over the past couple of months, and I'll share some of the results that we found. So we basically found, when we were doing live video posts versus our normal posts that are links to landing pages and photos and things like that, we got a 3x increase in reach. Similarly, we reached 4% of our fans instead of 1% of our fans. So I think most social media marketers in this room reach about 1% of their fans on Facebook. If you're on live video, you can reach a much higher percentage of your fans. And I think that's really powerful. The other reason, though, that video is so important right now is because of these Snapchat spectacles. I have a pair. Everybody on the HubSpot marketing team got one because we believe that these are so important. And why are these so important? They're so important because it actually puts people into your shoes. And so when I post this later, you are all going to see the looks on your faces of watching me present. And I think that hopefully they're not too bored looking. Yeah, there's some smiles. That's all right. I pressured you into it. Thank you for doing that for me. But the amount of empathy that's created by having a video camera like this. Imagine actually capturing your child's first steps with glasses on that have a video recorder in them. It's fundamentally different than holding your phone up in front of your child. And I think what it does is it puts people inherently into the shoes of the marketer, of the brand, of the person who's posting them. And I think, again, it comes back to that concept of the much deeper connections at play there. So we talked a lot about live video. We talked a lot about video more generally with Casey. And I think that one of the things that is often overlooked in video that marketers should be thinking about is just the core block and tackling of how to get video brought into your funnel so that your funnel actually improves in conversion. And so I'll share the results of a test that we recently ran on one of our landing pages for our CRM. So we basically had a page without a video on it. It was a text page, and we said, let's try putting a video in. Unsurprisingly, we saw really positive results. Our conversion rate went up fairly substantially just from actually having a video that explains things more deeply. So I think as we think right now about this world of saying, what are we going to do if we can't get as many visits from search? Well, you better make as many visits as possible count there. And I think that as we all think about video, it's just important to come back to the core funnel metrics and how you can actually bring video into your funnel. Solution number 3, and this one I dare say is the most important of all of them, is to do the right thing as marketers. And I think the reason that we need to do the right thing as marketers is, number one, because people have a voice now, people have expectations, and people turn on you very, very fast. They have a very short span of patience for brands these days. And so I want to talk about what doing the right thing actually means and why I think it's fundamental to adding value before you extract value. So there's 4 things that I want to share in this world. The first thing, if you want to do inbound marketing right in 2017, is to send less email. How many emails does everyone in this room get every day? A lot of email. How many people get a lot of email from HubSpot? Yeah. We have a goal this year to reduce our email volume 40%. We're cutting it out. We're bringing it down. It doesn't mean that email is not important. If anything, email is critically important right now. But the solution that marketers have taken over the last several years, as email response rates have fallen off, is to say, I'll just send more volume. Like, that's what I'll do. I'll get more emails. They haven't actually invested in the hard part, which is creating the great content that keeps people engaged and wanting to open your emails more often. And so as we think about email, I'd like to first show you what my personal Gmail inbox looks like. Gmail probably thinks I have no friends, and based on the fact that I have 0 social notifications, perhaps that's true. But this is from Saturday morning. 27 promotional emails overnight, 0 personal, 0 social. I ask you to all think about the last time in your personal email inboxes you got just a one-on-one email from a close friend. It's probably been a little while, huh? It's probably been a little while. And just to close out on kind of personal email inboxes, I think one of the things that marketers have been coasting on for a little while is just the habit that people have of checking their personal email all the time and checking it many times a day. And I feel like what makes me nervous is the idea that as people get fewer and fewer personal emails, they're going to stop checking that mailbox more and more and more, which is going to create a vicious cycle downwards. So this is what my work email looks like. And so Gmail probably thinks that some random guy named John is my only friend. This is obviously an extreme example of someone's marketing automation gone awry, but I think it emphasizes a point, which is that we get a lot of work email. And I think most of us in this room work really hard to manage it every day, but I would imagine that no one in here has a volume that they can keep on top of. And so a tactic that's worked for many, many years has been for marketers to send emails like this. And I don't think that's going to continue to work as well as it used to. So here's HubSpot's email volume and click rates over time. You see that blue line trending up and kind of plateauing at one point before in Q4 we started bringing that volume down. Look what happened to click rate as we did that. Click rate climbed way up. And what we're seeing is that the people who are getting our emails now, and we're going to continue down this path, are more engaged. They're more interested in getting them. As we've decreased volume, it means that we have done a couple of things. It's forced us to include our best content, which is great because people really value great content. It's also forced us to add more personality. So there's a woman at HubSpot named Tova Miller. You probably get emails from her because she is the personality that a lot of our emails come from, but we've kept her kind of tame with a fairly generic corporate voice. And the truth is, Tova's a marketer, and you're a marketer. And she's sending you this content because it actually is going to help you with some problem that you're having right now. Having empathy for the audience and having a personality is actually something that can really stand out right now in the world of email. And the last point there is creating experiences that go beyond just the inbox. And so right now, of course, a lot of email tries to drive to a landing page. I would really encourage everybody to think about ways that the landing page can be part of the email experience. I'll give an example of that in a little bit. Another thing we're doing that I think is really interesting is we're starting to ask people whether they like our emails or not. That's a novel idea. I've seen other companies do this. This is not like a new to HubSpot thing. Guess what % of people who opened our emails, sorry, I gave you a false flag there. I shouldn't have pointed. Guess what % of people who open our emails actually click on one of those buttons right now? That's a little high. 2%. 2% of people are actually saying hey, I'll give you feedback on whether I like this email or not. And we're getting really interesting feedback from our email database. And people saying really like this, I didn't like this, I'd love more of this type of content. It is now informing our strategy so that we can go down a path of making every email that we send count. And I think that's a big mantra. So a second thing, if you want to do the right thing in 2017, is to value your prospects' time. So I'll tell you the story of Trunk Club. This is our homepage. When I joined Trunk Club, I was director of acquisition, and I was all geared up. I'm going to improve the funnel. We tried everything. We were well, let's change the photos out. Let's change the design. Let's change the copy. Let's change the onboarding flow. There's only one thing that we did that fundamentally changed the funnel, and that is driving people after our onboarding flow directly into a messaging experience with a salesperson. They literally are on your website right now. Like our old onboarding flow was basically like, cool, fill out this form and someone will call you tomorrow. Or maybe the next day. I don't know. They'll call you whenever they get around to it. And guess how many times I heard the conversation of a salesperson on the phone saying, yeah, Trunk Club. Oh yeah, it's a personal styling service. Yeah, you signed up yesterday. Like, people do not remember, people forget. And so I think that this actually serves just an important lesson that is like, when people are looking for information from you, make yourself available. Not everybody chose to engage with that, and that's okay. But for a lot of people who were like interested in Trunk Club, they just wanted to get their questions answered, and they wanted to figure it out as soon as possible. They didn't want to come back to it. So, of course, HubSpot, like many websites, do have a chat feature on it. We actually have a messages product that customers can use on their websites. So I don't show this to show that it's particularly novel, but I did want to share what our conversion rates look like from the different contact mechanisms that exist for HubSpot. So chat is on the left. Contact form is about 50% of chat. The only difference between the chat and the contact form is that one is immediate when someone is present, and the other requires a call back later. 50% difference in conversion rate right there, and you see how that kind of trickles on down. So I share that just because, like, I believe it really works, and I believe there's just a fundamental concept, which is that if you have someone who's expressing some interest in you, make yourself available to them as quickly as you can. The old saying, time kills deals, I think is actually more true than ever. Okay, third thing, if you want to do the right thing in 2017, is tell people what you do. I present to you. Even better, show people what you do. I present to you the dreaded BDR email, business development representative. Now listen, I've managed business development representatives. I think it's a really, really hard job. But I get probably 10 to 15 of these, sometimes a day, and so many of them basically say something like this. We are an industry-leading cloud technology sales and marketing firm that consistently drive revenue. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you do. Just tell me what you do. And I get it. I know why BDRs take this approach. They take this approach because they're trying to find an angle. They're trying to find what problem you have as a marketer so that they can actually talk about how their software solves the problem. I totally get it. The problem is, I get so many of these and there's so much noise around this that if they don't tell me up front and take a stand about what they do, then my chances of responding are almost zero. And I tell this to all the sales reps in my company who are like, what if I wanted to reach you? I'm like, you got to tell me what you do. Like, and if that's a problem that I have, then I probably will respond. But if you don't ever put a stake in the ground, I think it's pretty tough. So I skipped over a slide that said, even better, show them what you do. And I think this concept of show, don't tell is another really important concept right now. I think, in improv, I used to do a lot of improv. And in improv, you used to start scenes, and one of the top rules of improv is show, don't tell. So you used to start scenes, and if you went out and you kind of said, like, hey, what are you doing? They might say, I'm vacuuming. And the coach would be like, stop! Be like, show them you're vacuuming. And you'd have to, like, get a vacuum cleaner, and you'd have to kind of, like, pretend you were vacuuming. But I think this concept of showing, not telling, is actually a really, really powerful concept for marketers right now. So I'll give you an example of HubSpot lead nurturing. This is the email that currently gets sent during our lead nurturing that tells you what HubSpot is. It's a fine email, right? It's pretty direct. It's kind of to the point. It's got a video in it. That's cool. Like, video's the thing right now, right? The problem is we could be showing them what we do, not just telling them. So here is a pilot we are putting live of new lead nurturing. So HubSpot, fundamentally, it's marketing and sales software. And one of the core things we do is we have a contact record that tracks all the interactions that a prospect on our website actually had with us. And so we are going to start taking that data, putting it into an email for that specific prospect. So if you were Jordan, you would get this email and it would actually show you like what interactions you'd taken on HubSpot, because this is what we sell. And if you are a marketer, this is what you're interested in. So the more we can actually show you what we do instead of just telling you what we do, the more likelihood we have of convincing you that there's value here. The last piece, solve for prospects before yourself. This sometimes is what it feels like to be someone trying to buy something from a B2B software company, and for many companies, to be totally honest. There's all of these rules enacted in place. And at HubSpot, like we have a complicated business. We have a global business. We have direct reps, and we also have people who help our partners sell certain customers. So there's a lot of complication around lead rules. We need a lot of information from people to get them rotated to our sales reps appropriately. The problem is that we are solving for ourselves and not solving for our prospects and for our customers. And I think that is fundamentally wrong and is one of the key things that we have to change as marketers in 2017 and beyond to add value before we extract value. So a couple examples of this. Warby Parker. I think people have probably heard of Warby Parker, but fundamentally, they changed the way that value is given in the world of glasses. They said, hey, I'll send you 5 pairs of glasses in the mail. Keep one if you like them, right? And so fundamentally, this 5-day try-on period is actually about adding value before you extract value. On HubSpot, the way we try and think about adding value instead before we extract value is we started to launch free software tools. So like, hey, you probably just want to like kick the tires on HubSpot. Like, it turns out like getting a trial of marketing software is fairly complex. So like we've created some simple free tools. And that's one way that we can add value before we extract value. And I think every marketer in this room should think pretty deeply about like what are ways that I can add value before I extract value from my prospects and from my customers. The other example in the world of simplifying is the form on your website. So I wanted to just take a screenshot of our demo form on the HubSpot.com website, but it was a little too long, so I had to make a GIF. I literally had to record it because it's so long. Like, I shrunk my screen down as small as I could. I went down to like 20% in the browser, and I still couldn't get it on here. 13 forms and a checkbox, or fields rather, in this form, in order just to get a demo. And so one of the big things that we're trying to do this year is say like, okay, it's not solving for our prospect. We need to change that fundamentally. And so we ran a test. We said, well, what if we just asked for a few things? What would that do? We saw a 20% increase in net new domains just by shortening the form. We had a ton of people who were brand new to HubSpot coming to the website who saw that form and were like, I'm good. Like, I don't need that in my life. That's too much, okay? So this is just one example there. Another is to say, well, what if we didn't even drive people to our website and we just used something like Facebook lead gen ads where we actually went out and just let them sign up to hear more from HubSpot directly on Facebook? Like, what impact would that have? Well, it had an even bigger impact. We saw a 4x submission rate versus driving someone to one of our landing pages and asking them to fill out a form there. So all of these examples are just saying like, shifting your mindset from saying like, well, if I don't have these 13 fields in my form, then I can't rotate it properly, and I don't know if I'll be able to do my lead scoring well, and like kind of breaks my go-to-market, to saying like, no, like you have to start solving for the people who actually want to buy things from you. Break those walls down. And so as I wrap up here, I think that what I wanted to share with you today was a little bit around my perspective about some of the big challenges that we're facing as marketers, and some of the reasons that I don't think like the historical tactics are going to continue to work. And I wanted to present some solutions for you. So I really feel like now is one of those moments in time where marketing is about to take like a fundamental shift yet again. And I hope that this gives you some inspiration about how to rise to the occasion. So thank you very much.